Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and today I'm delighted to be part of a video YouTube hop to celebrate Pinkfresh Studio's liquid watercolors. They're beautiful, beautiful colors. I love using them all the time, so I was very excited to be asked to join. This hop, there is a giveaway up for grabs. Make sure to watch the end of the video and leave a comment before you leave, and there's some details down in the comments in the description of the video that'll give you a little more info on that. So today I decided to make a trio of watercolor cards using some Tim Holtz Distress Woodgrain cardstock. I wanted to see how these would work with the liquid watercolors, and they held up beautifully. I was really happy with how it worked. And I'm using 3 different lighter colors of the liquid watercolors and 3 slightly darker colors. I'm going to blend some different colors together. For one card, I'm going to use Aquamarine and Bubblegum. For the second card, I'm using Clementine and Key Lime. And for the last one, I'm using Sunshine and Lavender. And I'm starting off with just a simple paintbrush and some clean water, and I'm doing wet on wet. So I added a little bit of a water wash on my panel of cardstock. And then I came in with the pink, the bubblegum, and the aquamarine. And then I came in with a little more of the bubblegum in the middle just to kind of blend together. I love where they meet in the middle, how it makes a new color on that one, kind of a lovely purple lavender color. And I love how vibrant these colors are. You can just see as I put the clementine on there how it pops and the color blends out. It's something fun with liquid watercolors. You kind of can get some really vibrant colors, but you can also soften them down just by thinning them a little bit more with water. And as they sit there and dry in the moisture, they continue to kind of mesh together and blend really well in the middle. And again, I started with one color at the top and then blended in some clean water. And if it gets a little too bold, I just got a little more water to soften my edges a little bit as I went in there. And then again, I blended in the middle. That kind of makes a pretty burgundy color in the middle of that one. I thought that was fun. All right, so now I have my 3 backgrounds, and I'm going to set those aside. I've already die cut 3 of the Floral squares of die set just from plain old white cardstock, good heavy duty 110-pound Nina solar white cardstock. You could double cut these and layer them together to get a thicker, more dimensional. I just did it one time, and it seemed to work really well for these. And then I've chosen some different sentiments from the Bird with Flower stamp set. I love some of the unique sentiments that Pinkfresh Studio has, and the stamp set had some really cute ones, so I kind of had some fun playing with which ones I wanted to use. And I'm going to heat emboss them on thin strips of black cardstock. And to save some time, I'm going to emboss them all at the same time. I'm going to use my MISTI to stamp them. I should have cut that little piece off to start with so that I could fit it in my MISTI, because I messed up all those stamps I'd already gotten lined up one time. And then I'm going to set it in my MISTI. I'm going to stamp with just clear watermark embossing ink. After I run my embossing buddy over my black cardstock, I don't want any white powder to stick anywhere except where I'm stamping my sentiments. Then I'll stamp. Sometimes I stamp twice to make sure I get a clear impression. This watermark ink pad was nice and juicy and fresh, so I got a really good, I could see from the first stamp. It's hard to see in the video, but I could see from the way I'd stamped that I had a good impression. And then I'm going to sprinkle on my white embossing powder, shake off the extra, and if you have any stray little bits of powder, again, it's hard to see in the video, but I had a few just random little pieces, so I grabbed just a thin, plain, clean paintbrush, and I just kind of brushed those off and then shook them off a little before I heat embossed. That way they didn't heat set anywhere that I didn't want them to show up. And then once I heat emboss these and get them all melted and set, I'm going to pull out my paper trimmer and just trim these into thin strips. You can use fancy dies or anything else, but a lot of times when I just want a sentiment on a thin strip, I just use my paper trimmer. If you're familiar with your paper trimmer, it's pretty easy to line them up and cut them right where you want them to be trimmed. Once I have these all set, I'm going to plan which ones I want to coordinate with my stamp set, or with my die cuts, and which ones I want to go on which backgrounds. I'll pull them down here so that they're in the screen and you can see what I'm working on. So I just kind of lined them up, planned where I wanted them to fit, and then I'm going to grab my scissors and trim off the extra, just so that I only have them as wide as the sentiment. Do that on all of them. And then to adhere these all together, these die cuts are really fine, thin lines. You can use some glue adhesive all the way behind them, but one good way I found to attach them is to use some good sturdy adhesive on the sentiment, adhere that to my die cut piece, right where I want it, and then the sticky still goes through the back of that, so on that I'm going to add some foam adhesive. And then when I later attached these to the cards, that first one on the left, I didn't need to do this on, but the two on the right, I used a tiny bit of foam between each of the flowers just to stabilize that larger solid bit. But otherwise, I just kind of left them floating free. Again, if you were worried about them not being sturdy or stable enough, you could add some foam behind there. You could die cut more of those die cuts and layer them together to get a thicker. But for me, again, the single layers seem to work just fine on these. So once I have those all done, I still had to wait a little while for my backgrounds to dry. They weren't quite dry. You can set them with a heat gun to speed the drying process, but I really preferred the look of just letting them dry on their own. They were really close at this point, so I went ahead and I wanted to add some black splatters to my background. And I've fallen in love with Pinkfresh Studio's Licorice liquid watercolor to add black splatters on a card. I used to have a really hard time getting those really fine, tiny black splatters. And I found the trick is to get a little tiny paintbrush. And again, those liquid watercolors work beautifully for adding those. And I just tap them with my finger. You can tap them on the opposite hand or however you prefer to do it. But that just added a little bit of interest and texture to the background. And then once those dried all the way, I just adhered those with the foam strip behind the sentiment. And again, a little bit behind the flowers on those three. So now I have a set of 3. I love doing trios of cards. If I'm going to do one, I might as well do 3, right? Anyway, make sure and leave a comment before you leave. I'd love it if you like what you see and want to like and subscribe to my channel. I also have more details on a blog post over on my blog. There's a link below for that as well. And again, there's a $25 Pinkfresh gift card up for grabs and a full set of liquid watercolors over on the Pinkfresh Studio video channel as well. Thanks for coming by. Have a wonderful day.